Beloved, chosen ones, listen carefully. This is not just another night marked on your calendar. This night is written into your destiny. Heaven has sent me with a prophetic urgency. God is not addressing your past, and He's not focusing on your pain. He is speaking to your purpose. Before this night ends, your life will be changed forever. When God looks at a man or woman, He doesn't check their resume. He doesn't value them by their bank account, job title, or social standing. He doesn't respond to what others call them or even what they call themselves. God doesn't call you based on who you are right now. He calls you based on who you were created to become. That's why so many people miss their calling. They spend too much time looking at their situation instead of focusing on how they were made. When heaven speaks about you, it doesn't ask your past for permission. It speaks directly to your purpose. When God chose Gideon, Gideon was hiding in fear. He wasn't on a battlefield, not in a powerful place, not standing tall with confidence. He was down in a wine press, secretly threshing wheat, afraid of the Midianites. But when the angel of the Lord appeared, he didn't say, "You coward, stand up." No, he said, "Mighty man of valor." That's how God talks. That's heaven's perspective. God always speaks to your potential, not to your current struggle. He sees the design, not the damage. Right now you may be in a situation that seems full of limits. You may feel unworthy, unprepared, and unnoticed. But the truth is, God didn't choose you because of your situation. He chose you because of how He created you. There's something inside you that hell is afraid of, and heaven is counting on. There's an assignment woven into your very being. That's why you can't escape your purpose, even when you try. That's why some doors won't open for you. It's not rejection, it's redirection. God won't let you settle for something smaller than what He planned. Think about Moses. When God called him, he was hiding out in the desert looking after sheep. His past was a mess. He had killed someone. His confidence was broken. He even argued with God and said, "I can't speak well." But God didn't reply to the excuses. He wasn't calling Moses the murderer or the man who stuttered. He was calling Moses the deliverer. Why? Because heaven doesn't talk to your failures. It speaks to your future. We often look at ourselves through human eyes, but God sees us through His intention. He's not reacting to your pain. He's starting your purpose. That's why a divine calling often feels too big. It's meant to stretch your faith. If your calling matched your ability, you wouldn't need to trust Him. God doesn't call those already prepared. He prepares those He calls. But before He uses your hands, He needs to convince your heart that you are more than your past. David was just a shepherd. When the prophet arrived, his father didn't even think to call him in from the field. He wasn't even a choice in their minds. But the oil didn't flow on the brothers who looked qualified. It flowed on the one who was shaped in secret places. Man looks at the outside, but God sees the heart. He saw a king and a young boy. Royalty, someone who smelt like sheep. That's how God works. He's not drawn to appearance, He's drawn to assignment. Some of you are living under labels. You've been defined by what you did or what you went through. But let me remind you, your past doesn't have the power to cancel God's plan. God didn't choose you after you got your life together. He picked you while you were still being shaped. Before you were born, He knew you. Before your mistakes, He called you. That means your failures don't shock Him. Your wrong turns don't erase your destiny. He already included your struggles in His plan and still said, "You're the one." When God called Abraham, He didn't pick a perfect man. He picked a man who carried a divine seed. There was something inside Abraham that God wanted to release into history. And the same goes for you. There's something inside you that must be brought to life on this earth. You are not a mistake. You are not random. You are not extra. You were custom made for this generation. You carry something the world has never seen. And the moment you realize you were made with intention, not by accident, is the moment you begin to walk like someone chosen by God. That's why the enemy attacks your identity. He doesn't mind if you go to church, sing songs, or quote verses, as long as you don't find out who you really are, because once you do, you become a threat. That's why he tries to control your mind. That's why he brings up your past. That's why he says you're not enough, because he knows the truth. If you haven't fully accepted yet that you were made in God's image, filled with his Spirit, and sent to fulfill his will, you are more than your struggle, you are more than your story, you are more than their opinions, you are heaven's plan for this time. And God is calling you not because you've arrived, but because he already knows what's inside you. You were made to rule, to lead, to build, to bless, and to make an impact. The treasure is in the clay jar, the glory is in the ordinary. Even if you feel broken, flawed, or not ready, God has already said yes over your life. This isn't about hype or ego. It's about being in line with God. He's not asking you to pretend. He's asking you to believe. Believe that you are who he says you are. Believe that you have what he put in you. Believe that your situation can't erase your design. We've been trained to think that if we cry hard enough, hurt deep enough, or pray long enough, heaven will move. But pain doesn't activate power. Purpose does. Heaven doesn't work based on sympathy. It moves by divine strategy. God isn't responding emotionally. He responds when you align with him. That's why some people stay stuck even when they're desperate. That's why tears don't always bring change. Heaven doesn't react to emotion. It responds to movement. There are people praying the right words, but from the wrong place. They're praying out of frustration, not purpose. They want God to act because they're tired, overwhelmed, or out of options. And yes, God sees that. But he releases destiny when you begin walking in why you were made. The kingdom doesn't answer need, it answers purpose. Jesus said, I must be about my Father's business. That wasn't from a place of need. It was from purpose. When Jesus fed the 5,000, the need was hunger, but the reason was to show the nature of the kingdom. When he healed the blind man, it wasn't just to stop suffering. It was so God's works could be revealed. Power is ruled by purpose, not by pain. Until we stop begging from a place of weakness and start stepping into identity, we'll keep repeating emotional cycles. God isn't moved by pity. He's moved by alignment. He's drawn to purpose. That's why two people can sit in the same service, hear the same message, and only one leaves changed. It's not about who needs it more. It's about who recognizes what's happening. Revelation unlocks what desperation can't. The woman with the issue of blood wasn't healed just because she was desperate. She had been desperate for 12 years. But one day she got a new understanding. If I can touch his robe, I'll be healed. She didn't wait for him to come to her. She positioned herself for a miracle. Heaven responded not to her pain, but to her alignment. Blind Bartimaeus didn't just cry out loudly. He cried with insight. He didn't say, Jesus of Nazareth like others. He said, Jesus, Son of David, a name filled with prophecy and identity. Jesus stopped heaven. Always pauses where purpose is acknowledged. You want heaven's attention. Walk in, why you were created. Speak who God truly is, not just who religion told you he might be. There is a sound of identity that makes heaven take notice. People everywhere are hurting. If heaven answered only based on pain, everyone would be healed instantly. But miracles aren't handed out because of pain. They flow because of purpose. Purpose pulls heaven's help into your life. When you stop asking, Lord, help me survive, and start asking, Lord, why was I sent? Everything changes. Breakthrough isn't about asking God to act. It's about stepping into who you were always meant to be. And once you do, doors don't just open, they wait for you. Scripture says to get understanding. That's the key to authority and provision. You can fast and pray, but without purpose, you'll only see short-term change. That's why the enemy fights your understanding. He's not just trying to block your blessings, he's trying to block your vision. Because if you ever understand who you are and why you're here, blessings will follow you. The battle isn't over stuff, it's over your calling. The enemy isn't scared of your crying, he's scared of your awakening. When you wake up to your identity and your assignment, you stop begging and start declaring. God isn't here to fulfill your wish list, he's here to fulfill his purpose. That means your provision comes from your mission, not just your passion. God doesn't support fan, he supports his plan. When Elijah called down fire, it fell because he was in line with God, not because he was in trouble. When Peter walked on water, it wasn't out of boredom. It was because Jesus said, come. Purpose activates the supernatural. So if things haven't changed yet, check your prayers. Are you asking from need or from calling? Are you crying out from pain or speaking from authority? Heaven responds to kingship, not crisis. It listens to vision, not just volume. Your breakthrough isn't tied to how desperate you are. It's tied to what you know. When you finally get why you're here, the door doesn't just open, it's already waiting for you. Territory requires preparation. God must first adjust your thinking before placing a crown on your head. He has to transform the thoughts in your mind. You can't walk into your destiny while still questioning your identity. Many are praying for breakthroughs, asking for elevation, and waiting for influence, but they continue thinking like who they used to be. Heaven will never pour out the fullness of destiny on someone still wearing the chains of their old way of thinking, because you can't conquer like a king while thinking like a captive. God brought Israel out of Egypt in one night, but it took 40 years to remove Egypt from their hearts. They had the promise, they had the word, they saw miracles, but they never viewed themselves the way God did. They wandered aimlessly, not defeated by their enemies, but by their own reflection. They believed in God's strength, but they didn't believe in who they were. So every time destiny came close, their insecurity drove it away. Your greatest enemy is not the devil. It's the twisted view of yourself that you refuse to release. It's not Pharaoh blocking you anymore. It's the Pharaoh that still lives in your thoughts. If God says you're chosen and you still act like you're rejected, heaven can't trust you with divine responsibility. Until you begin to agree with God's view of who you are, until you do, you'll keep pushing away every open door he sends. Identity comes before destiny because inheritance is not handed to strangers. It's reserved for sons. Think of Gideon. When God called him a mighty warrior, he didn't respond with belief. He said, "Who, me? My tribe is the weakest, and I'm the least in my family." In other words, God, you've made a mistake. He couldn't see what heaven saw, but God didn't change his plan to fit Gideon's doubts. He raised Gideon's thinking to match his calling. And God is doing the same with you. He's not adjusting your mission to match your comfort. He's challenging your perspective so you can step into the person he already created you to be. You can't fulfill your purpose while holding on to the mindset of a slave. Slaves wait for approval. Sons walk in authority. Slaves fear punishment. Sons expect favor. Slaves think small, beg for bits, and constantly question their value. But sons know the table belongs to them. The shift from slave to son is not about emotions. It's a spiritual revelation. It's when you stop wondering, am I worthy, and start declaring, I am who he says I am. You don't walk into destiny by feelings. You step into it by faith, rooted in your identity. That's why Jesus didn't begin his ministry until he heard the Father's voice saying, "This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased." Not, "This is my miracle worker," or "This is my healer." It was identity. Not what he did, but who he was, that opened the heavens. And the same is true for you. Your future doesn't start with striving. It begins with hearing. You must hear what heaven calls you, because if you don't, the first storm, the first letdown, the first disappointment will send you retreating. The enemy isn't only targeting your finances, your health, or your relationships. His real attack is always aimed at your identity. When Satan tempted Jesus in the wilderness, he said, "If you are the Son of God." He wasn't challenging Jesus' power. He was testing his identity. Because if you doubt who you are, you'll never walk in what you've been given. You'll settle for surviving when you were born to rule. You'll accept chains when you were created to break them. Until you see yourself the way God sees you, you'll keep ruining every divine moment, not because you aren't capable, but because you're unaware. You'll step back when boldness is needed. You'll retreat when doors open. You'll hesitate over things God has already confirmed. Identity gives you boldness to walk into rooms like you belong, not because of pride, but because of purpose. When you understand who you are, you stop comparing, stop overthinking, and start moving with focus and confidence because you know who sent you. Even the prodigal son couldn't receive full restoration until he remembered who he was. The Bible says he came to himself. That's identity. He said, "I'll go to my father," not, "I'll ask for a servant job." He remembered he had a father, and when he came back, the father didn't shame him. He gave him a robe, a ring, and a feast. The robe meant covering, the ring meant authority. The feast meant joy, all of it was ready. But the son had to remember his identity first. Many are circling the promise, never stepping into it, not because God hasn't said yes, but because you haven't said yes to who you truly are. You're praying for open doors, but God is waiting for you to show up as the person he made, not the version life shaped. You have to unlearn the lies, drop the false labels, and let go of the past that tried to rename you. That is not your identity. You are not your pain. You are not their opinions. You are who God declared. Your calling is real. Your purpose is true. His favor is sure. But none of it can be unlocked without identity. Purpose without identity leads to exhaustion. Authority without identity causes self-destruction. The land may be promised, but only sons inherit, and sons aren't born there, revealed through revelation. The moment you embrace God's truth about you, the path starts to open, and what was blocked starts flowing. Being chosen doesn't mean you'll be cheered on. It doesn't mean things will get easier or people will treat you better. It doesn't mean recognition, acceptance, or attention. Being chosen means you've been marked. It means you've been made for something bigger than comfort. It's about purpose. Chosen is not a title to show off. It's a burden you carry for a mission beyond yourself. It's not a trophy. It's a responsibility. We live in a time where people want to be chosen without being changed. We want the role without the refining. We want the stage without the shaping. But God doesn't choose you to make you famous. He chooses you to make you faithful. Being chosen is not about what's easy. It's about what's holy. He removes you from what's familiar, pulls you out of what's easy, and sends you into an assignment that requires complete trust in Him. When God called Abraham, He didn't say, "I'll make life simple for you." He said, "Leave your home, your people, and go where I will show you." That's not comfort, it's calling. Being chosen means stepping out of what's known into what's eternal. It means becoming unfamiliar with the world you were raised in, so you can build the kingdom you were made for. We've confused fame with purpose, but being chosen doesn't make you famous. It makes you targeted. It places a demand on your life. It separates you. You'll find that people who used to understand you no longer do. Some friendships will fade. Opportunities will disappear. You'll feel misunderstood, isolated, and overlooked, not because you did something wrong, but because you're doing something right. Chosen people live with tension. Others can't see. They're not superior. They're simply on assignment. Being chosen is not a reward, it's a divine assignment. God doesn't pick you to impress you, He picks you to send you. And the longer you treat it as a compliment, the more you delay its purpose. This isn't about being impressive, it's about being available. Chosen ones aren't raised to be adored. They're sent to carry out heaven's plans, and often that includes walking through trials so others can walk out of theirs. Jeremiah was chosen, but he was also mocked and thrown into a pit. David was chosen, but he spent years hiding from Saul. Esther was chosen, but it required risking her life. Joseph was chosen, but it came with betrayal, slavery, and prison. That's the pattern. Those who are chosen go through pressure before they're pled. There's always crushing before the crown, always wilderness before the throne. You're not chosen for comfort, you are chosen for consecration. That's why some people walk away. They wanted the blessing without the burden. They wanted the gift without the grind. But you can't carry the oil if you're not ready to be pressed. The weight of your calling will crush anything in you that doesn't agree with God. Being chosen means God won't let you blend in. He won't let you settle. He won't let you drift like everyone else. He cares too much to let you waste your calling, and often chosen people don't even feel qualified. They're not yelling, "Pick me." Most of the time they're hiding, hurt, unsure, overwhelmed by what they sense inside. Because being chosen isn't about being confident, it's about being called. You don't walk in it because you feel ready, you walk in it because God said so. And that alone is what carries you when everything else falls apart. It's time to stop seeing the favor on your life as a trophy and start treating it like a tool. You weren't chosen to be admired, you were chosen to make a difference. You weren't called to sit still, you were called to shift the world around you. You weren't anointed to be noticed, you were anointed to break darkness and destroy chains. Being chosen isn't about you, it's about His plan working through you. And the weight of being chosen is this: you don't get to live a casual life. You don't get to follow every trend. You don't get to move like the crowd. You're under heaven's instruction. There are places you can't go, conversations you can't join, and relationships you can't keep. Not because you're better, but because you're set apart. The oil on your life demands a different kind of discipline. The fire inside you won't let you be average. So stop expecting ease, start expecting clarity. You may not always feel safe, but you'll always be certain. Because when you're chosen, God gives you grace for your journey. He gives you insight for your mission. He gives you authority for the place He's calling you to. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You don't need to explain your path to those, who weren't part of your process. You just need to stay surrendered. Being chosen isn't a title. It's a way of life. It's dying to yourself daily. It's saying yes to God constantly. It's obeying when it's hard, loving when it hurts, and standing when it would be easier to sit. It's understanding that the cost is high, but the calling is holy. And if God picked you, He already knew about your weakness. He already saw your flaws. He already knew your past. And He still said, "You're the one," because being chosen never meant being perfect. It meant being willing. Perfect, it means placed. It means marked for a reason. It means set aside, not for your own praise, but for His higher plan. What if what you've been calling a delay, heaven has been calling growth? What if the time you labeled as rejection was really divine protection? Many times we think that silence from God means we've been left behind, but His silence is often a sign that something deeper is being prepared, something your eyes can't yet see. When you are chosen, God doesn't show you off right away. He hides you, not to punish, but to prepare. You are not buried, you're planted. And the difference between a burial and planting is the purpose behind it. Burial ends something, planting begins something. What feels like darkness to you is actually where your roots are growing strong. You weren't locked away, you were placed in hiding. You weren't rejected, you were being prepared in secret. Because what God plans to do in public, He always shapes in private. You were not in a tomb, you were in a divine womb. The challenge is that we live in a time obsessed with attention. We want to be seen, heard, shared, followed, but God doesn't send people out who haven't first been formed. And formation requires hiddenness. Formation takes quiet. Formation needs stillness, because you can't carry weight in public if you haven't first been crushed in private. Delay is not God turning you away, it's part of His design. His silence doesn't mean no, it means not yet. You're still being prepared. Think about Moses, chosen to lead Israel, but spent 40 years in the desert, not leading people, just watching sheep, not speaking to Pharaoh, just talking to himself in the wild. But that delay wasn't rejection. It was the fire. God was removing the prince of Egypt and building the prophet of Israel. When the burning bush came, Moses wasn't prideful. He was ready. That's what delay does. It shrinks your pride and sharpens your spirit. It makes sure you're not chasing fame, but following purpose. Now think of David, anointed king while still a teenager, but didn't wear the crown for years. Between the oil and the throne there was hiding betrayal, fleeing from Saul, acting insane in strange places, all while knowing he was picked by God. Can you handle being chosen and hidden at the same time? Can you be told you're anointed but still treated like a nobody? Because that's where real identity is made, in silence, without applause, without praise. When you fight lions and bears with no one watching, just to stay faithful, God keeps hidden those He plans to use. Because if He shows you off too early, the weight of your calling will crush you. That's not cruelty, that's love. Pushing someone forward before they're ready leads to a public fall. And God cares too much to let you fall under the very thing you cried to receive. So He slows you down. He chooses the long way. He breaks things in you that would break others, through you if left untouched. He delays not to annoy you, but to shape you into someone who can handle the next season. You've been asking God, why am I still here? But heaven's been asking, have you let me finish what I'm doing inside you? You think you're ready because you're tired, but being tired isn't the same as being mature. Feeling something isn't the same as being prepared. Until the dream in your heart lines up with the strength of your soul, God will keep you in the womb, not to hold you back, but to keep you whole. Because when He sends you out, He doesn't want you just to get there. He wants you to last. Understand this. The womb is not punishment. It's the place where you're formed. It's where things grow in the dark. It's where growth happens without needing attention. No cameras in the womb, no fans, no applause, just pressure, quiet stretching. And when the time is full, when the roots are strong, then comes the birth. But if something comes out too soon, it can die. God isn't slow, He's exact. And when your moment arrives, you will not miss what He planned. Some delays weren't even about you. They were about the mission. He had to set things up in the future. Shift hearts, change atmospheres, align people. So when your time came, the scene was ready. It's not just your readiness, it's His full plan. He's been working in you and around you at the same time. Because true purpose can't be rushed. It's revealed at the right moment. And when you step into it, you'll see why the wait was necessary. The things that used to shake you won't even bother you anymore. The rooms that once made you nervous will now feel like assignments, not Tim of your worth. The delays that made you question God's love will prove He was shielding you. You'll look back and thank Him for every blocked path, every silent prayer, every hidden season, because you weren't in a grave, you were in a womb. And wombs give life, wombs stretch, wombs protect, wombs stay sealed for a reason. God has been guarding you, shaping you, maturing you, not because you were forgotten, but because He plans to complete His promise through you. You are not late, you are not forgotten, you are not removed, you are exactly where His hands placed you. So don't mistake His quiet for rejection. Don't curse the waiting. Don't think hiding means you don't matter. God doesn't hide useless things. He hides what's valuable. He hides warriors. He hides treasures. He trains leaders in the dark. This delay is not the finish. It's the birthing place of your calling. This is not just another night, not just another speech to make you feel good, and then go back to life as normal. No, this is not motivation. This is manifestation. Heaven isn't giving you a pep talk. It's making a shift, a real spiritual turning point. After this, something in your spirit is going to shift. What you've been praying for in private is going to show up in public. You've cried long enough. You've waited long enough. You've hoped, fasted, fought, and wondered. But tonight, the waiting turns into walking. The promise turns into possession. You're not just reaching anymore, you're stepping in. This is the kind of moment when God draws a line and says, everything after this will not look like what came before. You've stepped from dreaming into doing. There's a moment when what's been growing inside can't stay hidden. It has to come out. That's now. Something in you has finished growing. You've been molded in quiet, tested in pain, shaped in hidden places. Now heaven says it's time. Not time to hope, not time to plan. Time to move, time to act. Time to take hold of what you've only talked about. Motivation tells you what's possible. Manifestation shows you what already is. Motivation stirs feelings. Manifestation proves God's decision. This isn't hype. This is the Spirit's moment. This isn't about being inspired. It's about prophecy being fulfilled. This is when private words become public actions, when the promise grows arms and legs and walks beside you. After tonight, your speech must shift. No more "I hope someday," no more "if it's God's will." No more "I'm trying." After tonight, speak like it's yours. Move like it belongs to you. Walk like you know the promise has landed. Every chosen person has a moment when the cloud stops, and the voice says, "Take off your shoes. You've arrived." And that moment is here. This is why the crushing had to happen, why the waiting was needed, why the hiding was part of the plan. Because what's coming is too heavy to carry while still immature. God had to remove the version of you that would drop the gift. He had to clear out the pride, wash away wrong motives, block every almost that didn't belong in your next. Because what's landing now can't be watered down with fear. You had to be empty to carry the full. Tonight isn't about another message or more theories. It's about results, visible results, proof that God has been with you. You won't walk away just encouraged. You'll walk out changed, with direction, with power, with a shift inside. There's a new alignment taking place that goes beyond feelings. The Spirit isn't just stirring, He's releasing. You're walking into rooms you only dreamed about, using authority you thought you didn't have, speaking with boldness you didn't even know you had, going through doors you stopped believing were for you because you thought they were shut. But resurrection isn't limited by time. It doesn't matter how long it's been. When God says now, nothing can block it. After tonight, you won't be knocking, you'll be entering. You won't be asking, you'll be receiving. You won't be begging, you'll be building. You won't be talking about promises, you'll be living them. Because this is not just about feeling something, it's about getting something, owning something, giving birth to something. The time of just imagining is over. Now is the time to act. And is the truth. Manifestation doesn't wait for your permission. It waits for your yes. God's not asking you to plan, just to move when He speaks. You might not feel ready. It may not look perfect. But when heaven says, now, your only job is to say yes. The strength isn't in how perfect you are. It's in your position. Just show up with a yes. That's how it flows. So don't step back. Don't doubt your worth. Don't replay your past. This isn't about where you've been. It's about where you are now. The wilderness season is over. The waters have parted. The walls are shaking. The promise is in front of you, and your feet are about to touch it. After this night, you won't be the version of you who settled for fear, delay, or distraction. The real you, the called, sent, chosen you, is rising. So hear this loud and clear. This isn't just a nice word. It's a wake-up call. God is challenging the way you think. Small, wait too long, and make excuses. You are not waiting on God. He's been waiting on you. You were picked before the world began, assigned before you were born, anointed before they doubted you, and chosen before you felt ready. The time for praying over what's already been declared is over. Now walk like it's done. Speak like it's settled. Move like it belongs to you, because tonight isn't the start of your journey, it's your emergence. You're not becoming anymore, you're being revealed. And the world will no longer wonder who you are. They will see it, feel it, know it. You are God's chosen. Get ready. This is not a suggestion. It's a divine command. You will become